Hi, my name is BTerry, and we're going to talk about how to design a PowerPoint. Now here we have an image of Frederick Francois Chopin, born March 1st, 1810. In his time in the Romantic era, he was known as the poetic genius and was based on a professional technique that was used without equal in his generation. He actually quotes, "Simplicity is the final achievement. After one has played a vast quantity of notes and more notes, it is simplicity that emerges as the crowning reward of art." In this presentation, we're going to discuss how to design a PowerPoint and intertwine simplicity and complexity into each PowerPoint slide. We're going to be discussing tips for good slide content, how to use a slide's empty space, how to balance a slide's content, and also how to use contrast in your PowerPoint slide design. So as Chopin would say in Polish, "Zacznijmy," or let us begin. Let's begin with words. First, I want you to kind of think of how many words should be on a slide, or how many bullet points should be on a slide. Now, of course, in the past, if you've experienced PowerPoint, traditionally we would make our PowerPoint prove our points with bullet points, several different words, different contexts, and things of that nature. However, I want to tell you now that there is a simpler way to go about this. There's really no point for a speaker if your viewer can just read the information on your slides. So if you have a list of things and everyone is just reading it, there's really no need for anyone to discuss the same thing that's on the slides. So think of a minimum of 5 to 8 bullet points, or maybe use the 177 rule. The 177 rule means that you have one main idea or main point per slide. You're going to insert 7 lines of words or text maximum, and you're only going to use 7 words per line. So play around with this concept and see if it works for you. Otherwise, you can take my next suggestion and ask yourself, can the information you're representing today be communicated through maybe a photograph? Now, this is where the speaker really comes alive, and the PowerPoint slides support the speaker. Images are really powerful, efficient, they're direct, and is really what people remember most when it comes to presentations. So try it out and find a good visual to support your single message. Now let's talk about empty space. Now, it is the most difficult to apply because empty space, you really feel like you have to fill that space up. It's also called negative space or white space, but it really is it's a supremely simple concept. For example, many Japanese homes have a washitsu, or a traditional room that is simple and honestly it's mostly empty, like this picture. The empty space allows you to appreciate a single item in the room having a powerful design element in itself. So the Japanese would create this living space, and it is pretty simple. In the end, the more we add, the more diluted and less effective the design of a graphic or a slide or a document or even a living space becomes. So instead of putting all the words that are spoken by the speaker and placing it on a slide, you can actually use a PowerPoint feature called presenter notes, or even maybe use cue cards when you're presenting your PowerPoint. And just use the empty space on the slide to guide the viewer's eyes to a specific image. Next, let's talk about balance. Having a well-balanced design gives a clear, a single, and a unified message that is delivered to your audience with a clear starting point pretty much. So guiding the viewer through the design versus confusing them with clutter. So ask yourself, what is the most important part of the slide? Or what is the least important? What needs to be clearly expressed so that the viewer is not confused? Then you want to select an image with a clear hierarchy and use a display of elements with good balance. Today we're going to talk about 2. We have an asymmetrical design and we have a symmetrical design. Our asymmetrical design, or designs that are not equal or equivalent to some respect, they're actually the most popular in using empty space. It makes the designs more interesting. There's more of an informal and dynamic aspect to it with a variety of shapes and sizes, as you see in our first picture. Symmetrical designs are slides that emphasizes elements along a central vertical axis, as you see straight up and down in the middle of that particular symmetrical design. It's vertically centered and equivalent on both sides, really evoking more feelings of formality or stability on that particular side. Now, both the design types give a good balance and use of empty space. However, as you can see, one is a little bit more interesting and fun to view than the other. Lastly, we're going to talk about contrast. Now, contrast simply means difference. We're all wired to notice differences, and subconsciously, we're always looking for similarities and differences all the time. So give your slides some life and use the most powerful design concept of contrast. And you can do this through manipulation of space, which is using objects near and far, or even empty and filled. You can use different color choices like dark, light, or cool versus warm, or even by typeface or different fonts like serif or sans serif, or even bold and narrow fonts. And lastly, you can position your elements in a way that maybe one's on top, one's on bottom, one is isolated or maybe grouped, and so on. Designs with strong contrast attract interest and guides your viewer's eyes to the item that is clearly dominant on the slide. Now, as you can see for these lemons here, the most dominant image is the purple one versus all of the yellow, using contrast and complementary colors to really make that one particular lemon, slice of lemon, pop. Now, we talked about a lot today, but in the end, it's really all about simplicity. It's really about making it simple and maybe using the 1-7-7 rule, 1 being the main point, 7 lines of text, and 7 words per line. Making sure that images are what support your main point versus a whole bunch of lists of bullet points and words on your slide that could be more confusing and kind of boring. You also want to use wisdom with your empty space and don't confuse your viewers with the clutter, balancing out each elements on your slide without randomly placing them on every slide that you're using. And lastly, we talked about contrast and how to guide your viewers to the main focal point of your PowerPoint slide, and really making your presentation come alive with that color or contrast. Now, always keep in mind, although we have already spoken a little bit about the many different ways to make your PowerPoint come alive and make you be the focal point of your presentation. You as the speaker make the presentation, okay? So make your PowerPoint simple as you deliver the complexities of your presentation and information and whatever that you're trying to deliver to your audience. And always remember what Chopin said. Simplicity is the final achievement. So I challenge you, go and make some complexity simple.